It is time, everybody, for the review of The Last of Us Episode 6, which you haven't watched yet. You need to go watch. This is a pretty good episode with several key sequences from the game, with some variants like they've been doing throughout the show, but overall, this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the better story episodes that's building up towards what's to come. Now, I don't want to give anything away just yet because my reviews are not spoiler free. My reviews are spoiler full. So if you haven't watched the episode yet and you've stumbled across this video or you've clicked here and you're not familiar with the way I do things, go watch it, then come back because we're about to discuss the whole thing in detail with my show notes and everything else. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. Thanks so much for your support with super chats, memberships, the Patreon page, all the things you guys are doing that helps keep me doing this full time. We'll talk more about that at the end for you newcomers, but in the meantime, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Again, this is your chance to walk away with no spoilers. Without further ado, let me get into my show notes here, and we are gonna start our review of Last of Us episode 6. So this episode starts off 3 months later, it says, and it's a snowy atmosphere. They're out and about, and we see somebody hunting. At first, I thought it was Joel, but then we get back to a cabin, and I thought for sure we were getting the cabin sequence from the game, which happens after the university. But it was like that's a man's foot. That's not Ellie's foot, so maybe they just reversed the timeline and changed it a little bit. But it turns out this is one half of a couple that's living off in the wilderness. Um, and it's Graham Greene, who I love. Every time I see him in anything, he's a really great actor. And I think the last thing I saw him in was that sci-fi show that also did an MMORPG, whose name escapes me right now. It only did like 2 or 3 seasons where they're like based out of St. Louis. Wish I could remember the name of it off the top of my head. Defiance? I think it might have been Defiance. Anyway, the dialogue here between the old man and his wife is pretty funny because Joel and Ellie are inside and they've basically got the old woman at gunpoint. He's like, why'd you let him in here? And she's like, the gun was over there. So the dialogue here is really great. Joel wants them to tell him where they're at on the map, and the old man's reply is like, "Why you lost if you got a map?" And Ellie just snaps back, "Must have missed all the street signs in the enormous fucking forest." So it's just really a really good dialogue sequence here between these characters, and it's just a chance to show different. I mean, this is just a guest spot, obviously, a quick cameo appearance, one scene in the show. Um, I doubt they'll be back for more, but it was great to see another group of people, another couple that Joel and Ellie can interact with on the way, and just a chance for some actors to sink their teeth into a slightly comedic role. So it's really cool. But it turns out they're in Wyoming now, and as they're talking to the couple, it's like they've passed by Cody, Laramie, Winter River Reservation. They're all taken over. And it turns out this couple has been here for like 40 years or so. So they've been here long before there was infected. And I just realized that I'm sitting here with like, look at my white, ugly old man chest. It's all good. Sorry, guys. Um, anyway, the old couple's like, don't go past the river. Don't go west past the river. It's bad. Never ever go there. You'll see bodies that they've left behind, infected and otherwise. And so they're warning them about whatever group lies west of the river. They're bad, bad people. Um, don't go that way. But Joel's like, my brother's that way, and that old couple's like, if he's west of the river, he's gone, man. So it is what it is. So as they're leaving, this is what I think one of the key differences between the game and the show is that the show is adding humanity to Joel. He's a 56-year-old man, so they've given him deafness. He's a little slower. He gets winded. His knees, especially the sequence with Tess at the beginning, where they're, you know, you don't have busted up 40-year-old knees. Um, we see Joel having a panic attack as they're leaving. This is right after he's got word of how bad it is west and the fact that his brother might be dead, and he just has this panic attack. And Ellie's freaking out, thinks he might be dying. He's just like, no, I'm good. Just give me a second. So yeah, things aren't looking good for Joel. So the next sequence, like they're in a cave and they're resting up. Joel's duct taping his boots. We're getting this, we've been on the road a while now, no supplies. He's gonna take the watches, let her sleep. He wakes up in the morning. Apparently, he fell asleep on the second watch, and he's a little bit grumpy with Ellie about, why didn't you wake me up? She's like, got the rifle. She's like, I did all the things you told me to do. I checked for the high ground. I checked for traps. I did this, that, and the other. I did all the things you told me to do. So don't sit there and tell me that I can't handle myself. And he grudgingly admits that that's actually the case, but he's like, still, next time, wake me up. So he's recognizing that he's getting older and he's having issues. So the next sequence is them crossing the river of death on this bridge, and the music gets really intense here as they're crossing. And there's some travel montage here before they find a dam. And I wondered if we were going to get the dam sequence here, but turns out we didn't. But it does sort of tie into the whole game events. And as they're scoping out the dam, boom, they're surrounded by riders on horses. And this is a pretty intense sequence because the way they detect if they're infected or not is they have a dog that, the dogs can sense it. And so they bring out the sniffer dog. And first it goes to Joel, and Joel's, nervous, but obviously doesn't smell anything. And then it goes to Ellie. And this sequence is really a buildup of suspense because the music gets tense. Everybody's freaking out. Um, Ellie's freaking out about the dog. Joel is like having another panic attack and looks like he's either trying to zone out so he doesn't hear her getting shot, or he's just preparing himself. But nothing happens. The dog doesn't smell anything. It's all good. They're all masked up. They don't know who these people are, but they're on horses. And they want to know what he's doing here. And he says, I'm looking for my brother. And a woman rides forward and she's like, what's your name? And he says, Joel. And then we get they just cut and we go to the next scene, which is them riding into this settlement on horses. And as he's coming in, and as they come into this settlement here that they've got up in Wyoming, I cried. I'm not gonna lie. Like, he meets he's riding in and he sees his brother helping out with something up on the like up on a tower or something in town, up on the side of a building, and he's like, Tommy, and this I might even cry here. I'm gonna review. It was super powerful, really well done. That scene, really, really well done. But very emotional, reconnecting of brothers who haven't seen each other for a long time, especially in the world that they're living in, where you can't, no one survives. It's just one of those things where the power of the relationships is even more intense here because it's so rare to find people that you want to find alive and can trust and so on and so forth. So it's really good. And then as we get the reveal of everyone, it's the actress from True Blood. And I was like sitting here, I can't remember her name, but she played the character. I think it was Tara was the bartender. She's the bartender? No, because the cook was the other guy, the flamboyant gay guy whose name escapes me. But didn't Tara play the waitress at the? Pretty sure that's what she played. Man, True Blood was a good show. Anyway, she does not trust Joel and Ellie. And there's this scene where they're all eating and she's getting into it with Ellie. And this is when Tommy lets them know that they're actually married. And we get a little bit of a backstory here where basically 7 years ago they established this place. Everyone's pitching in. And Joel makes a sly comment about, so what, this is like communism? And her character's like, yeah, this is basically, it's a commune. I'm an elected official, but there's 300 people here. Everybody gets a vote, but everybody also pitches in. But Joel and Tommy finally get some alone time, and this scene did not play out the way I thought it was going to, because this initial interaction, he lies about Tess. Joel does. Joel lies about Tess. He lies about Ellie, claims that she's just some Firefly's daughter, and they need to find the Fireflies. Claims that he's getting paid to do this job, and um, Tommy's like, well, it's just a week's ride south through dangerous territory, infected and raiders, but it's nothing you can't handle. So I got to have myself in the show notes there. I had to actually edit that section a little bit because I got ahead of myself. So the next thing is we get this spat between the brothers, and basically Tommy's sitting here saying, we murdered people, man, but I don't judge you for it. We survived. There were other ways. We just weren't good at those other ways. But this woman's pregnant. I'm gonna be a father, and I can't go with you. Just because life stopped for you doesn't mean it has to stop for me. And Joel is pissed here because literally thought that Tommy was gonna come with him, and he's like, "We'll be out of your hair in the morning." And he stomps out, and he has another panic attack. And I wondered for a moment if they were giving him heart palpitations, but we find out later that they are just panic attacks, which we'll get to in a minute. But we then have this heart to heart between Ellie and Maria, while at the same time Joel is off in the workshop trying to fix his boots, and he can't because his hands are giving out. And I was like, boy, oh boy, do I understand that one, sir? My tendonitis is bad, so this is funny here. But this is when they have a heart to heart, him and Tommy. He breaks the immunity news to him, tells the tale, including the story about Tess, and then he breaks down, just starts crying, and he's like, I'm too fucking old, slow, and deaf. 5 years ago, I would have been up for it. I would have torn these people apart, but I saw a man kill his own brother, the sequence with the dog, all these things that have happened. He's like, I couldn't move. And now I'm just afraid. I'm not who I was. I'm weak. The fear, my heart, he's having panic attacks essentially. And he admits it. And he's like, I'm dreaming every night. I don't remember the dreams, but I wake up and I feel like I'm failing. I'm always failing at everything I do in life. And he's in his mid 50s now, and I'm always failing. He's spilling his guts here. And he wants Tommy to take her because he can't make it. And I felt like the scene was way more powerful here in the show than it was in the game. Because it is a powerful scene in the game, but the way it always played out in the game, I understand there are some nuances to it, but I always in the game felt like it was more about Joel just, they didn't give as much of an explanation here, which makes him seem like less of an asshole than he seemed like in the game. But this leads to the sequence, the confrontation with Ellie, which we knew was coming at some point, and they did this brilliantly, line for line dialogue from the game. I'm not her. I'm not Sarah. Don't say another word. You don't know what loss is. And she's like, I've lost everybody I know, and if you leave me, it's just gonna make me more scared. And it's line for line. It's great. And they end on bad terms. He's like, "You're right. I'm not your father, and you're not my daughter. Come morning, we'll go our separate ways." Rah! But of course, come dawn, Joel's at the stables and takes back his decision from the night before, and Ellie immediately forgives him, which means it's time to head to the university. This sequence was. I just played this sequence in the game actually, like 3 days ago, maybe 4 days ago. So it's pretty fresh in my mind. I haven't uploaded it yet. Actually, I might have live streamed that. I think I live streamed this sequence actually. I did because Graham was there while I was live streaming. So, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Turn up to the live streams. But I just played through the sequence of the university. It's much condensed here. We don't get all the infected and other stuff. It's just a very short sequence. They find out the Fireflies aren't here, but they're in Salt Lake City. But we do get the ending that we get from the sequence in the game, which is Joel gets hurt, impaled, and they manage to escape, but he falls off the horse and he leaves Ellie stranded with him laying in the snow. And I literally just finished that exact sequence the last time I played the game, and I literally have the game saved and ready to go from the point when we start playing as Ellie, and she's hunting the rabbit, or she hunts the rabbit and she's now hunting the deer, and Joel's holed up in the cabin. So now I've got to try to get ahead of the show again. But in any case, that's the review for episode 6. I got to say 10 out of 10. Like, this is a much better, it's kind of a palate cleanser from last week, because last week was, the end of that episode was just, we had the huge infected, we had the bloater, we had the Henry and Sam ending, just really harsh stuff. And then to have this as sort of a segue into what comes next, because I haven't played through it in a while, so I vaguely remember what happens next in the game, and it's just basically everything in these last two episodes I'm pretty sure they're just going to make them all be about the hospital and everything with the Fireflies that's at the end of the game. And all of that stuff is super intense. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's never played the game before. So even though this is a spoiler full review of the show, I don't want to spoil everything for everybody. It's just, I'm looking forward to the next two episodes to wrap up the show. So 10 out of 10 for me. Love it. If you like what you see here today, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, support in all the ways you can. You can do super chats and stickers on the premieres. You can do super thanks on uploads. You can do memberships. There's 3 different tiers down below. You can also hit up our Patreon page if you want to get involved with our tabletop and fantasy book series, point and click adventure game. There's a Discord. Links are down below, and I'll see everybody in the next episode. Stay safe, everybody. Happy viewing.